Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new
Few tracks have come to represent NASCAR's golden era quite like North Wilkesboro. So when it was brought back to life on iRacing in its classic form, then revitalized in the real world, many a race fan cheered. But for the drivers, the cheering gives way to focus once they find out how unforgiving this place is. Who can master this unique oval? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series, presented by Jam Printing and Promotions. And you'll see it all live here on Podium Esports. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Eddie Smith, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Joey, I'm absolutely looking forward to this place. I always love when we have new series come to this track because there's no other oval like this.
It's an old school oval. It has very, very low grip, and it really is that short track mentality. So you're going to be seeing drivers go all the way down. You're going to be seeing drivers try to throw the slide jobs all the way underneath. And then you're also going to see a lot of trucks probably overcharge corners, go skating out way wide, and hopefully they'll be able to save it.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough one. This is very difficult, this track. So drivers will have to be on their tippy toes all race long, without a doubt. But of course, they've got this track plus many others. And this is going to be an important one because you can see Atlanta Motor Speedway. That's going to be a dash for cash, which means we'll talk about it later. North Wilkesboro will decide who is in that competition for the money. But these are the last two races that we will have for our main season before we head into the postseason, which will kick off with New Hampshire at March 29th. And we'll visit, of course, Michigan, Richmond, Darlington, Pocono, and Nashville with those. Definitely a bit of an interesting series, an interesting schedule that they have put together on this. But let's take a look at the championship, Joey, because, like I said, 2 races left. This is where it starts to get important.
Yeah, the drop weeks all are already included in here. So Jonathan Cofield leads the way, just a narrow 11 points ahead of Ryan Pendleton. Jeremy Gardner sitting there in 3rd place, Brandon Evans in 4th, Patrick Drabick in 5th. But something to notice, right? We are on round 8. We've had 6 different winners in the 7 races we've seen. So a lot of these names that you're seeing here, they've made it to victory lane. With this being a Dash for Cash race here at North Wilkesboro, it'll be really, really interesting, and things are definitely starting to shape up towards the end of this regular season.
So we could see people try to make some interesting moves out there with it coming down to the postseason, the chase for the championship. And let's take a look at the track that they're going to face off on here as we zoom in on Google Earth. Now, this above view is really not going to do it justice because the main feature about this place, and this is the 1980s version that you see here on this old photo, which is what they're racing. It goes uphill on the backstretch and downhill on the front stretch, which is what makes it so unique. It is somewhat asymmetrical in the way the turns are from above, but very slightly. There's just a bit of difference in the banking on top of things. But at just over a 1/6 of a mile, or 6/10 of a mile, this track definitely will test them with how much you have to stay focused on the various different unique aspects of it in all parts of the lap. Let's take a look at this race itself, Joey, and what the drivers are going to be competing with.
115 laps around the short track here. There are a couple green-white checkers that are on the table. No fast repairs. I think we're going to be talking about that one a lot tonight. Just, it is a short track, so the elbows definitely come out. Those walls rapidly approach if you start sliding the truck at all. And then the other thing, the custom fix setup tonight, 65% fuel capacity. So it's a little bit less than what the trucks are used to carrying. They do have 3 tire sets available to them. And here at North Wilkesboro, the short track mentality, trust me, tires, they do a whole lot here for grip.
It's going to mean the world on when you pit during this race. So pay attention to drivers and how long they've been on those tires. Now, all of these drivers are, of course, involved in various parts of the armed forces and whatnot here in the U.S., and that means it's time for the Veteran Spotlight. And this week, we have Brandon Evans. Brandon is a captain in the Army National Guard. He started his 13 years of service as an ordnance officer and switched to finance in 2019. Brandon competes in the Next Gen and Truck Series at GLR and even won the Next Gen Championship last season. Thanks so much, Brandon, for being a part of GLR. So, and let's not forget that he also won last race. So he's on the upswing. Let's see if he can keep that up, because he will need to finish in the top 5 for this race to have a good shot at the Dash for Cash. Let's talk about that real quick. Now, like I said, top 5 finishers in this race will qualify for Atlanta next week, and they'll win $60 next week if they're first across the line. So I wonder how many of the drivers are going to be taking that into account, Joey, because maybe you can't win the race per se, but if you could switch things around to make sure that you're in those top 5, I mean, do you take a gamble to ensure that?
I think that it's an interesting kind of deal to put some money on the line in the middle of the season. And remember, this is the second Dash for Cash race. We've already had one earlier this year. So it's basically the top 5 drivers from today will have the eligibility to win $60 next week if they are the highest finishing Dash for Cash driver next week. So you're right. It just kind of puts an extra little carrot on the end of the line out there. Am I thinking we're going to see strategy plays only to qualify for that Dash for Cash? I don't think so. I think in order to finish inside of the top 5 anytime in the Goat Locker Truck Series racing, you have to be on top of the strategy game and one of the fastest trucks out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So drivers will have to have it all sorted out here. And well, some of them haven't in practice as it has looked difficult. And we've seen many drivers struggle with what appear to be loose trucks today, which isn't too out of the ordinary at this track, if we're honest, Joey. But I have to say, I wonder if job one today is going to be just stay out of trouble.
I think we're a little bit spoiled with new racetracks, new grip, all of this stuff. And then when you come to North Wilkesboro, when it really is old, yeah, there's just no grip anywhere. We're riding aboard with the 64 of Matt Knights, and you see how high he was really running on the racetrack. So I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of different lines. Probably the fastest one tonight is where the truck and the driver is going to be the most happy.
Yeah, I've seen this often. That middle line seems to kind of be the place to be typically around this track. But sometimes drivers have managed to get up high and make passes around the outside. Either way, it's going to be a lot of experimentation to try and figure out what's going to get you that track position and get you up to the front on this one as we wait for the practice to continue to finish up, and then we'll be off to our qualifying session. Trevor McManus out here brushing the wall, coming through 3 and 4. That's the higher end of the track, and then it's down here to the bottom end through 1 and 2. And you can definitely see how there's a hill on the front and the back side of the circuit for sure, which is going to be changing the momentum of these trucks throughout. Now, the good news is they do have pretty good track conditions. It's about 79 Fahrenheit out there, so it won't be super, super hot, but you're still going to have to keep that rubber underneath you on this one. Well, we'll be getting to that qualifying in just a moment. About 24 trucks out there today. If we do have a lot of cautions, I kind of wonder, Joey, how do you try and play the tire game? Do you hold off as long as you can? Do you try and take them early to get that rubber and get those positions early on? Or what do you do?
I think that now these guys are going to prove me wrong, but I just think that the word is going to be patience tonight. The more patient you are in the driving lines and how you attack this track, I think the better off you're going to be. If you start really driving in over your limit, over the truck's limit, well, guess what? The truck's going to start to slide around. We've seen a lot of trucks already bang the wall off of 2 and off of 4. We've seen countless number of trucks spin from basically just overcharging the corner entry and they're getting way loose on corner exits. So I have a feeling patience. The easier you are on the tires, the better off you are on the long run. And also, if you're patient, you're not driving it into the walls. The further forward in track position you'll be. Let's just see if the patient heads will prevail tonight.
We talked about trying to get into the postseason here with these last 2 races. For those wondering, our 6 drivers that are automatically in because they've won are Jonathan Cofield, the only one with 2 wins this season, Ryan Pendleton, Jeremy Gardner, Brandon Evans, Michael Kostek, and Dan Cunningham are your 6. Patrick Drabick is the highest driver without a win, and he's actually got by far the biggest gap over everybody else. He's 11 points above the cutoff line. The next down is Brandon Wallace at 6. And there's Brandon Wallace, Jamie Mullins, George Jewell, Tim Stubblefield, and Mark McCrary, all within those 6 points to the cutoff line. It is going to be just an all-out brawl to make sure you're not on the opposite side there, Joey.
Well, and when we were looking at those championship points before the race and everything, as we're watching Patrick Drabick go around and get his qualifying, this driver right here of the 07, he did have the biggest gap, but everybody behind him, he's getting a little loose there off of turn number 2. Everybody behind him was pretty much jam-packed in there. So the points separation between these drivers, between Brandon Wallace and Jamie Mullins, 1 point. Between Mullins and Jewell, 1 point. Between Jewell and Stubblefield, 1 point. So they are all stacked in there. A handful of drivers, a couple positions could be big time.
There will be consequences if you just make one mistake out there. And Jake Ellingson, Trevor McManus on the outside looking in, definitely want to try and take advantage of any of those errors that they catch the others making out there, get themselves a good finish today. Right now in qualifying, I see George Jewell with the provisional pole position, and he has run his 2 laps, but we still have a number of others that need to put one down. Drabic, we saw, made a spin on his first, I think, warm-up lap on the way out, and he's going to park it in. Where did he wind up? It says currently DNS. Try to see, did he not set one?
Yeah, I don't think that he actually put that one down on the board. He's currently P12 right now, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to actually go out there and run another lap. Now, this is the number 8 car that we were just checking on of Regis Clark, and now this is Trevor McManus. And Trevor is one of these drivers that's always towards the front of the field. He's definitely more aggressive when it comes to the racecraft out there. He hasn't found victory lane. I wonder if North Wilkesboro could be his chance.
I mean, with the way things can kind of go wonky here, it would be a good opportunity to do so. I did find out that Drabic was, well, he was 13th at the time. Looks like he's been shuffled down to 15th. Second lap for McManus. Ooh, improves him up to the second row, starting 3rd.
I think what we're kind of seeing is maybe a little bit of a pushy, loose truck out here. We see him always kind of catching the truck on the corner exit, and sometimes that can all start at the beginning half of the turn. Basically, if the truck doesn't turn at all, you've got all this wheel cranked into it. Then by the time it does turn, it turns way too much out there. So hopefully these drivers can kind of wrap their head around tonight's setup.
Gardner just took the pole away from Mullins with that 18.033. In fact, he didn't take a second lap. I don't know if he maybe scraped the wall there when we were watching him, or if he intentionally just thought, you know what, I've got this one. None of these other drivers we're waiting on are likely to overtake me, because Tanner Bethea, Timothy Stubblefield, Kyle Plumstead, and Mark McCrary haven't set a lap. But I think we're close. Yeah, they've got a little less than a minute and a half to go. So they'd have to probably get out right now to get their laps in.
I think really, Joe, that's probably going to do it for the trucks that we're going to
Yep.
see on the track.
Yep, absolutely. That means it is time to go to our national anthem. Let's pause for a moment before we head to the grid.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And with that, it is time to go racing. As the drivers line up on the grid, Jeremy Gardner is going to start them out on the pole. He'll be flanked by Jamie Mullins on that front row, with George Jewell. A turn of speed lately has put him into 3rd. Trevor McManus will be P4. And then you've got Ryan Pendleton on the inside of row 3 in 5th, and Jonathan Cofield in 6th. Michael Kostek could qualifying up there in P7 today. Jacob Ellingson on the outside looking in the championship terms. Let's see if he can do something from 8th. It'll be Brandon Evans starting 9th. And then Mike Browning rounds out your top 10.
On row number 6, it is the 68 of Stephen McDonald, alongside with Regis Clark in the 12th spot. James Kaufman in 13th, alongside James Goshen in 14th. Matt Knights in 15th, with Patrick Drabick in that 07 starting way back here in 16th. Have to watch it for him moving forward. Brandon Wallace in the number 99 in 17th. Chuck Phelps in 18th. Alan Marshall in 19th. Doug Ellingson in 20th. And a few more back here. In 21st is Mark McCrary. Then we got Tanner Bethea, Kyle Plumstead, and Timothy Stubblefield rounding out the 24 cars here at North Wilkesboro.
Just those bottom 4 that have not set a time in qualifying. Who knows, maybe starting from the back will work out well for them, but these trucks will have to try and keep themselves together all throughout the race because they do not have a spare truck waiting for them. If they get any sort of damage, then that is it. You break it, you bought it. And 115 laps will probably feel like a long time if we get a lot of cautions, if I can get the words out. But if it goes green, we have to remember the laps around here are only about 18 to 19 seconds long, Joey. So the more green flag racing, this one could whip by.
North Wilkesboro tends to have 2 different faces, kind of like Batman's nemesis out there. Sometimes you get these green flag runs, and like you said, sub 20-second lap time, and it just clicks off. But with how old and low grip this place is, sometimes the yellows do kind of come about, and when you have one yellow, they tend to reproduce out there. Hopefully we won't have a yellow-filled race, but it's all up to those drivers on the track.
Okay, already pace cars on the back stretch. They're going to be getting the green this time by. Gardner will lead them down into the first corner. Will he stay there? Or is that higher line going to be better off the run as the pace car getting ready to give way to the number 42? Green flag out almost immediately. Gardner with a big jump. Doesn't look like he is going to lose that lead at all. In fact, Mullins has a nice gap down to the bottom that he can slot into as they fight for third.
Oh, and Jewel slid up the racetrack, and now he gets into Jonathan Cofield. 2 cars around. We're still a green flag on the racetrack, but we've got a traffic jam. There is the yellow flag in turn 3 on the first lap.
Man, it took them a while to get that yellow out, but cars weren't fully sideways quite yet. Poor Brandon Evans got shoved all the way down to the infield and into the Armco. It looks like a number of drivers winding up involved in that one. Brandon Wallace, looks like Charles Phelps. Well, I mean, look at this. This is the longest lead up to a wreck I've seen in some time.
I was waiting for the yellow flag to come out for quite some time, and good job with that very last truck because he full ARCA braked, aka no brakes in there, but at least got through on the grass. So watch the black truck second in line here. This is George Jewell. He's just going to slide up the racetrack ever so slightly into the 53, and I really think that there's some net code contact here that sends the 53 around, and just after that, it's a chain reaction.
So there they are, not making it through the first lap under green this time at least, and just saw Drabick was given an EOL. Also, Jonathan Cofield had black flags cleared. So let's watch with Drabick here. Is he the first one to start this up? Did he tip somebody around as we ride down through the bottom of the hill? And then coming on up, they start to spin in front of him. And then, now that's interesting. He was given the EOL for that. I would almost say that Patrick looked kind of an innocent victim on that one.
100%. I would not put that on Patrick Drabick. I think that you could argue that, he probably could have slowed down maybe a little bit more. But I think that he had a clear shot on the racetrack. I don't think it was necessarily because of that specific incident. Maybe it was just kind of limping around on the racetrack.
Ah, gotcha. So just want to make sure that he gets in and gets that fixed. We got another replay. Oh, and the 07. Okay. Yeah, apparently having a lot of trouble trying to get the car to turn. In fact, almost made contact with another car as well. So that was to prevent other cars from having a black flag is what that EOL was about. So they could carry on, and he just had to try and work his way back as drivers are double file, but we're not going green quite yet. They extended it one more time so that everybody can get lined up. This is such a short circuit that sometimes it takes a bit for everybody to get into position.
Well, you know, I was going to keep my eye on that 36 of George Jewell tonight, but that all went out the window here in turn number 2 on the first lap. I'll still keep my eye on the 36 as he kind of works his way through the field, but 36 and the 53 have a lot of work cut out for him.
All right, this time we should be going back to green flag racing as they come out of 4. They'll be released. Gardner, will he get another good jump? Absolutely he does. He stretches away. Behind him, Mullins round the outside as Ryan Pendleton is on the low side, maybe a bit high there for Mullins, though. That 66 flirting with the outside wall.
Yeah, you called it, way out there, and now he runs more the middle of the racetrack, that white number 66 with the green numbers. He's got Ryan Pendleton down to the inside. I really feel from watching practice, oh, I'm sorry, we've got another yellow flag. I believe this one might be James Kaufman turned around.
Yeah, I kind of saw that in the background. It looks like he was getting tipped by Goshen, and I think a couple others got involved in it. Mark Knights just narrowly escaped it, but then unfortunately, it looks like Brandon Wallace maybe got really into him. Oh, 22. Plumstead also turning himself around, but I don't think that's the thing that brought out the yellow.
Oh, it was definitely the 85 getting into the 25. That's what kind of caused all of this mess. And then, yeah, you got to feel for Brandon Wallace. There's the contact right there coming up out of turn number 4. So just the slightest bit of contact sends a car around it. And Joe, second yellow, but it's also the second time we've seen pretty much a track blockage. Doesn't matter that this is a short track. There's not a whole lot of time to react here.
Certainly looks like it. So it's relatively steeply banked, not super hard banked, but enough that they can get some good speed going, especially down that front stretch where you've got gravity kind of on your side. So you'll see them get up to a good clip and can honestly destroy the car before they know it if they don't woe up in time. So that means that we've had Drabick and I believe Wallace had to take some extensive repairs. Looks like Cofield has had to get the car banged away on a little bit to get it back into shape, but we're behind the pace car for the second time this afternoon. And hopefully we can get a little bit more green flag racing next time.
And I think this is providing some opportunities for drivers such as Brandon Wallace. Remember, we highlighted him, part of that vet spotlight there. He was part of that first yellow flag. He got some damage from being pushed down into that inner guardrail. So all this yellow flag, it is kind of frustrating for the drivers who want to go racing. But if you've got damage on the truck, it gives you an opportunity to come down pit road and get some of that fixed up.
Let's keep tabs on those drivers that are trying to get into get above the cut line. Trevor McManus, well, he's sitting 9th right now, so he's doing decent. But Jacob Ellingson, he's up to 4th. Remember, he was only 1 point away from that cut line. So the 27 doesn't need much to try and get himself into that right position. We should take a look at his camera. Just Ryan Pendleton, Jamie Mullins, and Jeremy Gardner in front of him on the track right now.
So, I'm curious. We were talking about some of those pit road kind of strategies earlier, and when do you take the tires, when don't you take the tires, and with all the yellow flags, I wonder how long the trucks can actually make it on fuel, because if we do have a lot of yellows, if you're up front in terms of the track position, there's no point in coming down pit road unless you absolutely have to.
Well, 65% fuel, so hoping someone's got some numbers here on how far 100% can go, because that could give us a good idea, but I'm afraid I'm not as familiar as how far the trucks can go on this one. Certainly can extend it for quite some time if it stays yellow for quite a while, but for now it won't be, because the green flag is out and Gardner will once again lead them away. Mullins still going to fight Pendleton for that second spot behind them. Ellingson watching patiently. Got at least one less truck out on the track, but otherwise 22 of the 23 still running as we ride on board with our top group coming around down the front stretch, and we go yellow once again.
Looks like this one might be James Kaufman again, this number 25 truck in the back. So when it rains, it tends to pour on the racetrack. We're going to get this podium replay here. This is diving off into turn number 4, and just the truck looked really loose from that top lane there and just couldn't ever get that slide under control. Made some contact with, I believe, that was the 53 of Jonathan Cofield. So his day gone from bad to worse as well.
Yep, that was indeed Cofield, and there's severe damage on the front of the truck. As looks like we've got an opportunity to take a little bit of a break to mention one of our sponsors for this series, Jam Printing and Promotions. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning. Local and veteran certified, when they do well, they do good in the community. Big thank you once again to Jam Printing and Promotions. So Patrick Drabick, unfortunately, is here sitting in pit lane, having had to take a few repairs. Not the way you wanted this to go, Pat. Are you able to get back out on the track today?
Yeah, it looks to be that way. I mean, a lot of repairs needed to be done to this Jam Printing and Promotions 07. Just unfortunate, thought I had it all woed up and checked up, and then a truck shot across the track and got me real heavy in the left front and just knocked the whole suspension out. But they're getting it fixed up. Looks about 2 more minutes and I'll get her back on track.
Well, glad you'll at least be able to give it a try. Now, we were kind of wondering, with the limited fuel, how long is a green flag run looking in these trucks?
Really, with the way that we have the fuel set right now, I mean, you could go a little over 80 laps. So we kind of try to set it up to where at least you got to come in for fuel one time. That way you just can't run the whole thing out. So I think tires are going to play a little bit more into it than fuel ever will. But we're going to have to see as we kind of get this thing moving and grooving here. We've had a couple quick cautions to start this thing out, but these guys are going to settle in and they're going to put on one hell of a show.
Well, speaking of putting on a good show, it looks like these things are pretty tricky to drive. Just how loose are the trucks, or tight for that matter?
Little loose. They're a little loose coming out of 4, and that's just a product of North Wilkesboro. The setup that Premier Racing Setups provided for us is absolutely on rails. But, as you come out of turn 4, it comes off the banking and kind of climbs a little bit of a hill. So naturally, the truck is trying to unload. So that's really the kind of tricky spot here. Again, this Premier Racing setup is phenomenal, and I can't thank them enough for the setups that they put underneath us each and every week.
Well, thanks for coming and chatting with us. Looks like we're going green, so hopefully we'll talk to you in a bit. That was Patrick Drabick in the 07 taking repairs. As we come back to Green Flag Racing, it is still Gardner in the front. Mullins fighting with Pendleton. Started to become a familiar story. Ellingson going to slot into 4th back behind them, watching the battle in front.
Yeah, but the 23 of Pendleton got an excellent exit out of turn number 2, but I want to give credit to the 66. I know that we've had a lot of cars spinning around, and there's more cars spinning around in turn number 1. I believe that was Regis Clark might have had a little bit of help getting down into turn number 1 there, so we are under the yellow for the 3rd time here tonight.
Yep, that was Kostek that got into him. And I believe the 68 of McDonald kind of had no place to go. We'll see this in the replay. The two of them drift up to the outside as soon as that spin starts. Watch the 3, tips the 8, and then the 68. I mean, there's just nothing he could do.
This is from the restart here, so this should happen on this full next lap. So we're going to ride on board with Michael Kostek. I believe that it's pretty much going to be a parking lot right in front of him here, because there's Regis in that number 8 truck. So let's watch all of this develop as we kind of ride down the front straightaway and into turn 1.
So here's the contact. 8 starts to go around, and that's all she wrote for that one. Now, the good news is Regis looks like he is able to drive the truck back into pit lane. So I think he's going to be okay on that front. If it's still able to be able to do that under his own power, should be able to get back out there without too many repairs, I imagine. Still have about half the field is yet to visit pit lane, but we haven't had that many green flag laps, so I wouldn't anticipate we'd see many of them be in by this stage. A number of them have all been due to that damage that they've accrued early in this event.
I was going to give credit to the 66 car of Jamie Mullins. We've seen a lot of these kind of spins early on in the green flag run. And I don't know if you've noticed the line that he's been taking, Joe, especially on these starts. He goes way wide in turn number 1 and 2. And he is just simply leaving room for the 23, just in case that 23 maybe overshoots the corner a little bit, slides up the racetrack. He is making sure everybody can play on the playground together. And up front, it's been really, really clean on those first couple rows. And that's partly due to how the 66 is allowing room for other trucks on the track.
Good catch on that one. Yeah, I have a feeling that'll play a part, and maybe, hopefully, a few other drivers will kind of take notes on that and start to play a similar game. By the way, do we know if Brandon Wallace has gotten damage in this race?
Yes.
Okay, because I was kind of checking in on everybody. He's visiting the pits for the 7th time already, but he is still on the lead lap. So he's doing a good job with it, but boy, is it taking a bit for this car to get back into shape.
You know, I know it's only been 3, but my brain doesn't work that well anymore. But I believe it was the second caution that he came up out of turn number 4. There was a car parked there, and he went piling into him. He just kind of was a unlucky bystander in caution number 2.
I think that sounds about right. Looks like we're doubled up. And going to restart on lap 27 of this 115-lap event, or at least what we hope will be 150 laps. We do have 2 green-white checkers if we get some of these yellows towards the end. Maybe it'll clean up from here as the green flag flies. This time around, Mullins cannot chop down on Pendleton. Again, he goes way up to the high side. Pendleton down to the low. Watch the number 3 of Kostek here. Round the outside, he's going to be able to get past Browning.
Once again, he was just way up wide, left room for everybody underneath, and now back down to the racing line. So we ride on board with Michael Kostek here in the number 3 car, and we've got our 2nd consecutive green flag lap going. Let's knock on some wood. Hopefully it keeps on rolling.
Yeah, exactly. All right, down to the bottom through 3 and 4, though. Looks like that bottom line, the place to be through that corner as they swing back into 1 and 2. I expect a little bit of a middle line. Yeah, a few of the drivers trying that as we ride on board with the number 3 car, number 3 truck, just trying to save maybe a bit of tire through that portion. They attempt to stay off the curb through 3 and 4 because you don't want to touch that thing.
And really remember, we haven't had many green flag laps at all. We don't know where the tire wear is going to be. We don't know which line is going to be the fastest, and we don't know where the trucks are going to start to fall off. So I have a feeling these trucks are on the bottom of the racetrack now, but they're going to be moving around. I've seen quite a few kind of run that middle lane, that higher lane, and it seems plenty happy up here. Look at how much less you're turning the wheel, and looks like we've got another yellow flag. I'll stop talking.
I think, was that Regis Clark again involved in that one? He was off the track. So here is the 8. So he did have an incident. I'm not sure if this caused that yellow completely. Out of 3 and 4, down the main straight, riding alongside. That is Kaufman, it looks like, James Kaufman. Off the corner. Oh, just didn't know the truck was still there. Spins him to the inside, into the Armco he goes, and comes to a halt.
I think that's got to be the reason for the yellow flag. Riding on board here, so just make that door-to-door contact, and it just spins the number 8 car to the inside. And right here, he was actually kind of attached to the guardrail, had to back it up and then get the thing in gear. So just a lot going on the racetrack when that lead group was coming by.
Yeah, and maybe that's why we got that yellow, as the lead group coming back around kind of meant he couldn't safely return to the track. So out comes the yellow, and we slow down once again. But We do still have Gardner leading, Mullins second, Pendleton in third, and Ellingson in fourth. It's been that way for quite some time. And we heard the mention of the premier setups in this series from Patrick Drabick, who still had praise for them with saying that they were not the problem on this one. Premier Racing Setups is the longest running setup shop on iRacing, established in 2016. They offer many different options to help take your sim racing career to the highest levels. With over 50,000 customers worldwide, they've got the tools you need to compete with the best. And a special thank you to them for donating setups for the Truck Series. They do for every single round, including this one. And that's telling that even a driver who's been wrecked out still says, no, these setups are great. This place is just rough.
Setups are so important in iRacing, and if you don't know what a setup can do for you and you're kind of more on the novice side, you go out there and you can go as fast as the car will give you, and you say, hey, you know what, I can't go any faster than a 25.2 on this racetrack. Well, an engineer or one of these setup shops can come along and drop one into your folder, and all of a sudden that 25.2 turns into a 24.5, and you didn't do anything different on the racetrack. That is exactly what a setup can do. So if you ever find yourself in a session and you say, holy smokes, how are these guys that fast? It's because of those setups, and that's why Premier Setup, that's why these guys have been loving what is on the truck.
100%. Speaking of finding speed, did you see, I think it was either yesterday or today, Dale Jr. mentioned the repave of North Wilkesboro. They're apparently 6 seconds faster or something to that effect.
I wouldn't doubt it. You're also comparing old tires, old asphalt to new construction and materials. Yeah, pretty amazing.
So that'll be fun when we see another big race there come back again and see what it's like on that new pavement, as this is on the old pavement that iRacing scanned. So as the green flag comes out, Gardner is going to once again jump away. We're still seeing that same battle happen. Oh, but we've already got a wreck there in the middle of the pack. Mark McCrary gets turned around, and he brings a lot of people with him.
Ooh, yeah, I count about 5 trucks involved in this one, and there goes the pace car through one of them. Is that the 07 that I see back out on the racetrack? That was Patrick Drabick. I think he checked way up. So he, I think, was just kind of watching it all go down. Let's get the replay here. This all happens about middle of the pack going into turn number 1 here.
Ooh, that was Alan Marshall. He just
82 just looked like he missed his brake marker.
100%. The car was not stopping there, and that's why it was such a sudden snap of a spin, just right into that rear spoiler, and around both of them go. And because they were both kind of broadside across the track, you could see all the trucks find themselves just piling in with no chance to separate on this restart.
It's very interesting when you go to certain tracks, Joe, that we have kind of cautions breed cautions situation, and you think, well, it's an oval, right? It's North Wilkesboro. It's a small oval. Why can't we figure out how to get around this place? I don't know what it is about the width and especially the entry to these corners. It just kind of invites drivers to drive it in way too deep, and then you realize it far too late.
Yeah, it certainly has that effect, and like we said, this has kind of been the history, our experience at this place. So we expected it to be a little bit of yellow fever out here. It has happened, but who knows, maybe it'll clear up. Incredibly, we've only lost Regis Clark so far, although it looks like Wallace and Marshall are taking some further repairs. You mentioned Drabick is back out. Sadly, he's 23 laps down from the leaders, so he's not likely to be doing much other than grabbing a few positions as others fall by the wayside, like Regis Clark. But Kyle Plumstead here, currently sitting in 10th position, has gained the most positions of anybody. He is up 12 right now.
Doing a really good job in that number 22 truck. The other thing that I see about this truck, I don't really see any bent body panels on it yet. Now, I'm going to knock on wood over here for you, Kyle, that it stays that way, but that's part of moving up the order. Is the cleaner you are, the more trucks you're going to pass. I also see George Jewell up in the 9th place, right in front of Kyle right there. And remember, George qualified on the second row. He was involved in the first lap skirmish getting into the 53, so he was sent all the way to the back. So this number 36 car back inside of the top 10. Same thing with Brandon Evans sitting in 8th right in front of George. He was one of those trucks that was involved in the early yellows, getting that stuff fixed up and on the way back towards the front.
We're actually getting close to the halfway mark of this race. So even with all these yellows, it's still going by much faster than I anticipated. We're once again getting ready to restart. Everybody packed up nicely with 22 cars on track. The engines now roar, and we head down the hill into one. Last time we didn't even get into turn one before we had some contact. So far, so good. Nope, we're not going to make it. Looks like this time may have been a self-spin. I saw Goshen already starting to go around on the bottom.
Yeah, the 85 getting into turn number one. He has the 53 truck right behind him and definitely some front to rear contact. Jonathan Cofield, I believe that was, and sends the 85 around. So watch right here. We're just going to have simple front to rear contact of the 53 getting in too deep, and unfortunately the 85 pays the price.
Looked eerily similar to the last one as well. And was there further issues? Yeah, there was. We saw a bit of a spin from, poor Drabic, who's probably not 100% on that truck. So he kind of goes around. Did he? Oh, no, he had help. Okay, so he was avoiding some of that incident, and driver's just going to drift it up into him. That's what sent him around. Wasn't handling. Doesn't mean anything because he doesn't lose any positions, but at least he didn't hit anything hard.
I also want to point out that these drivers have not been able to kind of get into a rhythm yet. And you say, well, let's get some green flag laps going. Let's just get it rolling here. And that can be really difficult to do when you don't have any green flag laps at race pace under your belt with everybody. I think sometimes you just need to build a rhythm in order to get into that rhythm.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's got to also just raise the frustrations too. So patience probably starts to go away the more yellows we get, and that can alter your judgment making in the moment. So I'm sure that causes a few more ill-timed decisions out on the track, which is what brings out these yellows again and again. So there's lots of factors that can bring us to this stage. You know, I know I've asked you in the past, Joanne, if you would try oval racing if you got the chance, and I'm pretty sure you said yes. If you had a chance to race a short track like this, though, would you do it?
Oh, absolutely. I think that this would be a blast, totally different from road racing and kind of where my wheelhouse is, but I think it would be so much fun. It would be nonstop excitement the entire time. I think climbing into a late model on a short track, yeah, that would be a weekend night to remember for sure.
Absolutely. Looks like Cofield's back into pit lane. He's getting some repairs. Haven't seen a whole lot of EOL penalties, though, on this one, which surprises me. Thought that maybe we'd get a few for bringing out the yellows. But so far, we've only had the one, and that wasn't for causing the caution. That was just for a driver needing to get back to pit lane and not wanting to create black flags to clear. So they sent him back there, and everybody else was allowed to swing by. Well, you can see the entire missing front of that truck. I think that was Cofield getting back out onto the track, still trying to put things back into the right shape. We're getting ready to go, though, and we're going to once again take off on lap 49 this time. Just about, I'd say about 5 or 6 more laps. Yeah, about 7 more laps, and we're going to the halfway point. Green flag is out. Looks like Gardner didn't get as big of a jump this time. In fact, Mullins has no place to go on the bottom. He is going to ride the high side with good momentum, just about get fully ahead of Pendleton.
Yeah, and I've really been able to see the 66 kind of secure it off of 4, but actually really slips up way on the high side. That's not only going to open the door for Pendleton, but Jake Ellingson as well. He's that number 27 truck on the bottom, but I do feel that North Wilkesboro is a multi-lane racetrack, and here's the 66 proving it, running the middle, and actually now kind of getting the advantage, pulling ahead of the 23, maybe another half a lap, and he'll be clear.
He's fully clear right now, but it's off the corner that matters. And yes, he is past, almost banging doors there between the 3 of Kostek and the 9 of McManus. That is a fight for 5th position, while in front of them, almost a little bit of a look from Ellingson. We got a spinning car, the 39.
That is Brandon Evans, last week's winner, on the front straightaway here. So I wonder if he got any help coming up out of 4, or if he just lost it by himself. Remember, he did have damage earlier on this truck. So looking back, Joe, I think that this is a self-spin, just loose off of 4.
Yeah, I can tell you, I did that a lot when I was making a track guide video for this course a long time ago. That turn 4 is a lot harder than you'd think, especially here on the inside.
Did you see him there? Actually, that was a great shot. I think he might have even gotten on the apron. He was so low. Let's see if the truck actually gets upset right here.
Remember, I said you don't want to touch that curb. Doesn't look like he hit that, but yeah, it does look like a little bit of the transition. And you talked about it earlier about having the wheel too far cranked. Well, yeah, if you're on a shallower line, of course you got to have it cranked more.
Well, and he actually just had another really weird half spin in turn 4. So I wonder if there's something else, maybe some suspension damage going on with Brandon Evans' car. But whatever it is, just like the 53, a previous race winner, not having the night that he wanted.
I give a lot of credit to Patrick Drabick for having good spirits about this, because he just got the lucky dog and he came over the radio and said, "Oh yeah, lucky dog for me." So
well, here, let's check. What is this now, 19 laps down?
22.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
okay.
19 laps down from Goshen. So yeah, he has 19 more laps to make up a position. He's up to 22nd now, so he has moved past Regis Clark. But yeah, he's staying jovial about the whole thing.
Sometimes that's just kind of what you have to do out there, and yeah, it's not always going to be your day on the racetrack, but Patrick Drabick obviously still in high spirits. Love having him out here.
We've also got Jamie Mullins, who's having high positions up to this point. Jamie, you've been restarting in 2nd for pretty much this entire race, and it looks like you've got it down pretty well, but Ryan's keeping you honest. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's keeping me really honest. I don't really like the high line. I'm trying to get down as soon as I can. I know he's probably going to be faster than me on the long runs if that ever happens. So right now, like I said, I'm just trying to maintain the position I got. Trying to wonder now if we can make it without stopping if we keep this up.
Well, Jamie, I got to ask you, what don't you like about that high line? Because it seems like you have plenty of defense once the 23 gets all the way underneath you.
Well, and I have to actually drive it in a little bit further than I want to. I mean, I do get to run off, but it's I have to actually drive it in deeper, more than where I feel comfortable doing. But luckily, we've been able to do it pretty good.
Well, I know you're going back to green, so we'll let you go, and good luck out there.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, so that was Jamie Mullins, who's restarting in 2nd in the number 66 truck. He'll be alongside Jeremy Gardner. Doesn't like that high line, despite the fact that it seems to be working out pretty well for him. Green flag is out. Can he make good use of it this time as we head down into turn 1? He could maybe try and shut the door at the bottom if he wanted to chop off Pendleton. Pendleton doesn't have the speed. Top 4 go single file.
And he did exactly what he wanted to, got right down to the bottom of the racetrack once he cleared Pendleton, but it is all the 3 and the 27 side by side as we go into turn number 1. That's Michael Kostek all the way on the low side. Jake Ellingson trying to go around the top side. He's also going to try to bring Trevor McManus in that black and silver number 9 with him.
Kostek still fighting it. McManus, we're riding on board with him down the front stretch. We get another yellow, though, before we get to fully get up to speed on the front stretch. That appears to be Mike Browning's number 4 facing the wrong way.
And this is Deja Vu out of turn number 4. We've seen this with Brandon Evans. I think we've seen this with the 25 truck. Now it is Mike Browning's turn. Just got way loose off of 4. He does get help from the 25, but it's once the spin has already happened. definitely not in any fault that 25, just a loose moment with the truck.
Yeah, he was already going around, so something bad was going to happen. It just kind of sealed the deal as he'll whip it around and now return last on the lead lap. I think he's taking a few repairs currently. He just popped into his spot in pit lane. Haven't seen any changes between those top two all race long. It's been Gardner and Mullins, but Pendleton is up 2 from where he started. Ellingson up 4. Kostek is up 2. But James Kaufman up 7 positions now at this stage in the 25.
I also wonder, real quick point, we said they can make it about 80 laps on fuel. With how much yellow we've had, I wonder if they can stretch it the whole way now.
I mean, you wonder, can they and should they, so that they retain track position? Well, before we expound on that point, we want to mention Veterans for Life Foundation. The goal of the Veterans for Life Foundation is to both revitalize communities and support military veterans and their families' successful transition back into civilian life. Through support services, counseling, and education, they provide permanent, affordable housing to veterans and their families. Big sponsor of this series, and a great effort that they put into a noble cause out there. So 53 laps to go. This is now definitely past the halfway point. We're on lap 63 of this race. We were saying earlier, I think Plumstead was our hardest charger. Alan Marshall's matched him and is up 12 into 7th.
Let's talk about the tires and the pit stop strategy a little bit and why kind of track position is so important here. We're already about halfway through, just past halfway through, and you'd think a set of tires would do wonders out here, and it would, right? If you put on a brand new set of tires, you would be the fastest truck on the racetrack. But I am counting, is this 18 trucks on the lead lap? That is the big thing that you would have to drive through, and with how many yellows that we've been seeing, I wouldn't want to put my brand new tires all the way in the back and have to kind of risk it for all that danger to get back towards the front for that track position again.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I was thinking, maybe it's worth trying to stay out until that fuel gauge reads 0, just to prevent yourself from having to try and come back forward through the field. But we'll see. It certainly hasn't worn out the tires at this stage. We've gotten a small handful of green flag laps, and when they have, it's been good racing until that yellow comes back out. They're doubled up. They're ready to go. Pace car going to duck on in. Gardner and Mullins, will it be these two once again, or will we see Pendleton be able to take that second place away? He's been trying his darndest every single time.
And the 66 leaves him plenty of room, and this time Pendleton gets the good exit off of 2, so he's still challenging for second place down here into 3 and 4, and now he's actually got half a truck ahead, so it's really going to be the 66 of Jamie Mullins having to drive it in deep into 1 and 2, just like he said he didn't want to.
And that's going to keep his nose just slightly ahead, but Pendleton not letting him get away with it. He'll run the shorter line around the bottom of 3 and 4. Oh, and they're going to bang doors against each other. Big slap of the side panels. They'll keep it going.
I think this might get Pendleton clear, but the 66 hangs tough. The 27 with a big loose moment off of turn number 2, but we stay green flag. Still, Pendleton and Mullins arguing for second.
Ooh, Ellingson's going to regret that mistake as he drops backwards, but the battle for P2 will not quit. Mullins trying his hardest. I mean, if we get another yellow, Pendleton, remember, he only needs to be the car ahead when that yellow flies, but he falls behind him fully here. That might do it.
I know that Mullins doesn't like running the top lane, but he is proving that there is plenty of speed in the middle of the racetrack. You just have to be willing to really drive the truck down in there. Something we've seen kind of might be a little sketchy on today with how loose they are.
As the 3 continues to fight, he's the next one to rock up to Ryan Pendleton. All that fighting, did he use up his stuff? We haven't really gotten a good long run up to this stage, and now we're starting to see those who have saved and those who haven't.
all the different racetracks that we've gone to here, we've talked about dirty air, how it's important to get the clean air to the nose of the race truck. We'll check out the 53 here at the short track. Those aerodynamics, they don't matter for squat. He doesn't even have a front bumper on this thing, and he's up inside the top 5.
Watching this fight in front of him, I mean, does kind of remind me, I think there was an infamous race at Martinsville where Dale Jr. Wrecked the car early and had to rip bodywork off the front. He said it made his brakes the best they ever were there because all the air was flowing into them.
I love it, and I totally believe it. There is such massive difference between short track racing and these faster mile-and-a-half racetracks that we really have now. And yeah, short tracks, the aero, not as big of a deal, but here's Pendleton still down on the bottom side of the racetrack. Michael Kostek in that number 3 working the middle.
Someone might want to tell Ryan that bottom lane isn't working for you, bud, because it looks like the 3 might actually get this pass done as he's around the outside of 1 and 2, and behind them, got to watch out for Cofield there, who we've been riding on board with, still looking forward, almost able to chop down Kostek, just about as fully by. Now he is.
And the 23 and the 3 running side by side. Look who's joined the party again. Wasn't it Jake Ellingson just a handful of laps ago that was pretty much turned 90 degrees off of turn number 2? Well, he's right back on the bumper of Cofield.
Yeah, that's an impressive recovery. So clearly there is speed in the number 27 as we're going to watch from his perspective down at a 1 and 2. He's now rocked up behind a blinking Jonathan Cofield on top of things. Looks like he's brought it back to the real world now, and they'll complete lap 77.
I do have to note that the 53 is on newer tires. However, seems like the truck is a-okay in terms of speed, so Jonathan Cofield could be back in this thing. And Joe, remember, this is a dash for cash race, so getting inside this top 5, it might be worth it for $60 next week.
Exactly. Ellingson has double the motivation there to try and get this top 5 position. Remember, he's not too far away in terms of the cut line. He needs a good finish to make him safer as he just looks underneath the 53, but the door has been shut.
See how he approaches this situation. All of the kind of the passes that we've been seeing up at the front of the field have been done on the middle lane. When it was the 23 down on that low side, he kept getting boxed in on the exits. Here's the 27, once again, kind of running the middle and then diamonding off the back end, trying to square off the corner.
A truck spun on the backstretch. Mark McCrary gets it turned around. No caution. So unfortunate for him. He'll go a lap down, I believe, but he manages to get it rolling without interrupting the race.
I think the big question mark is when we had so many yellows, I felt that we could have made it all the way in terms of not stopping. But now that we've got a long green flag run, I wonder, are we good to go to the end?
Good question. A little bit of battling between Marshall, Evans, Plumstead here for 7th position as they're going to have to go around the lap truck of James Goshen, who stays down low, out of their way. That gets them a nice gap back to Marshall. Still, these two fighting hard for 7th.
Brandon Evans, who we're riding on board with here, has the freshest tires of everybody on the racetrack. He took the opportunity most recently to come down there and get some stuff, so he's trying to get underneath the 22 right now. But as you see, it doesn't matter really how old your tires are. You still got to drive it around here.
I was just going to say, he's wheeling that car. There was a lot of corrections, and there's even more as he bounces off the wall. He keeps his foot in it, though, and that gets him a chance to get to the inside of the 22. It was brave stuff, and it looks like it's going to work out.
Not quite clear on the front straightaway, but going into 1, you get the all clear sign, so move Brandon Evans up into 7th. The only problem, he's got about 3.5 seconds, almost 4 seconds up the road to go catch Jake Ellingson.
Whoa, 22 almost goes around. The yellow comes out anyways. Nobody hits him. Good news for all the drivers, bad news for those that wanted it to stay green, but that was the longest run we've had thus far.
Nice to knock out a bunch of those laps, and I believe it was for the 22 that we saw right there, just kind of getting really loose off of turn number 4, right on the racing surface in front of a bunch of trucks on the lead lap. That's probably what brought out that yellow flag. So let's regroup them. I'm curious if anybody's going to come down and get tires now.
Yeah, we'll have to watch for that. While we wait for the pit stops potentially, we want to mention Cruisin' Classics, located in Columbus, Ohio. Cruisin' Classics has a beautiful 56,000 square foot showroom filled with hundreds of unique automobiles. There is something for everybody out of their hand-picked selection of muscle cars and hot rods. Come on down to visit the facility today or check out their website, cruisin'classicinks.com. I see a couple drivers taking those trucks into pit lane, Joey.
I think that Jeremy Gardner, the 66 of Mullins, as well as a few others, realized how important tires really are. And with about 25 laps to go when we go back green, I think that they're taking this opportunity to hopefully take their last set of tires and be good to go to the end with the fastest truck possible.
Let's see if we've got enough time to chat with Jonathan Cofield, who has been doing impressively with a truck that is less than 100%. Jonathan, I don't know if you've been able to see, but you're missing a bit of bodywork on the front there. How is it driving?
It just driving about like it looks. Just been I don't want to down anybody. Just been kind of a slugfest out here, a little sloppy. You know, was running good up front early in the race, and I don't know if it was my fault or his, but he ran up on me and got me spun out, and I just been trying to slowly claw my way back up the mountain.
Well, for saying it's not driving well, we've been impressed with how close you've been getting to the podium.
Yeah, as short as this track is, you can only get like 15 seconds of damage repaired before the pace car catches you. So, you know, I probably made 8 pit stops trying to 15-second it. You know, I think I still got 5 minutes remaining, but taking those right side tires a while ago helped. But everybody's on 4s now, so might be a little difficult.
Well, despite it looking like a NASCAR truck modified here, it seems like you got speed. Real quick before we let you go, you're close to those top 5. You think you can get yourself in the running for the $60 next week?
I don't know. We're gonna give it a shot though. Keep watching.
All right, that was Jonathan Cofield, going to be restarting in 7th in that number 53 today. Interesting, because I wouldn't have expected him to say that truck is ill handling. It certainly looks like he's got a good grip on things the way he's been racing it. We'll see what it looks like now that he's just slightly farther back in the field. This time, though, Michael Kostek, for the first time, will have a different starter at the front with Pendleton on the outside, switching roles as the green flag is out. Ellingson going to try to get under him. A little bit of a hurry up and go from Brandon Evans.
Yeah, got into the back of the 23, but just gave him a shove off into turn 1. It wasn't in the brake zone, no dirty driving whatsoever. Michael Kostek continues to lead the way. Look at Jamie Mullins try to think about 3 wide going into 3.
Yeah, Gardner and Mullins will want that track position back sooner rather than later. Ellingson starting to lose it. He'll spin around. Can everybody avoid? No.
I believe that's the 25 again. Kaufman getting collected in this one. This was all just Jake Ellingson. No contact at the beginning half of the corner, just driving it in a little bit deep. You could kind of see this one coming with how stacked up everybody was behind. And something we didn't say, those first 3 or 4 trucks, they were all on original tires. Everybody else behind was on fresh stuff.
Now, watch the 42 truck. He was the one directly behind. This is really impressive. Like you said, it's just a slow, lazy spin that starts in front of him, but somehow he's going to manage to avoid any of the damage, any contact at all.
So this is the 42 truck that we're riding on board with. The 27 right here going into turn 1. Look at him start to slide. Let's watch him avoid.
And he does it underneath too. Wow.
Yep. It's the right way to go. 100%.
How did he get it woed up in time to go low, though? That was crazy.
It's because the trucks were already at the minimum speed for the corner, so he hadn't started accelerating yet. He could continue on the brake, keep the weight on the front end of the truck, and basically carve it underneath the 27. Plus, he's on new tires, Joe.
That's true, yeah. He's got all the grip that he needed. Perfect storm. and he was able to avoid in one of the more unlikely ways here. So
Under
he-
control, right? He was patient. He saw it all
Yeah.
develop right in front of him, and he just waited until he had to do something.
and picked the right spot. So that will put him up into fifth. Mullins was also able to avoid, but around the outside, and he wound up with fourth. This is from onboard Ellingson, so here's what he saw in his mirrors. This is probably going to look a little bit terrifying, especially as trucks start to approach and then eventually run into him.
Yeah, just multiple cars. I think it might have only been the 25 that really kind of smushed them, but definitely a few of them were down there.
Not the worst contact we've seen, but not ideal. So where is Drabick at this stage? He's still 22 laps down, unfortunately, and still in 22nd. We've got and that's because we've got so many more trucks that are a lap down or more. So they've been taking the lucky dogs away from him, unfortunately, which is another reason why he was really in a bad spot. He was unlikely once we got some other drivers with bad luck to ever be eligible for that. Only 2 drivers are still on the same tire set and have not stopped into pit lane this entire race. That's Kostek and Pendleton.
I was just about to make that point. So Brandon Evans on the second row, he's got some fresh tires, albeit older left sides, newer right sides. I believe the 66 of Jamie Mullins has 4 fresh tires from a couple stops ago. Same thing with everybody else behind. So these front 2, you better run away real fast.
Yeah, they're going to be just hounding them. They are hoping we get more yellows here at the end. Everybody else, they want some green flag racing, which we're getting now. The 3 is going to shoot off. Pendleton, unfortunately, can do nothing with Brandon Evans underneath him already. Evans, one of those drivers on fresh tires. Can he manage to sneak past? He's still sitting in second. Meanwhile, the 42 already up to fourth.
There was a little bit of contact between Evans and Pendleton coming off of turn number 2, and now the 39 is officially clear for second place. But look at the old tires work for Michael Kostek out front as Mullins and Gardner are still arguing back here over fourth place. Oh, a little bit of door banging going into 3.
Yeah, those 2 fighting each other hard are actually, I think, costing each other in this situation. Pendleton wants them to keep squabbling for that 4th position so that he can focus on getting back past Brandon Evans once again. And then Evans is already sizing up Kostek, but hasn't been able to get side by side, surprisingly.
No, I think that he's staying patient. I think where the patience is running out is that 66 of Jamie Mullins. He's trying to get to the bottom of the racetrack, but the 42 has just been right there. He can't do anything about it, but actually, here we go. He's going to get to the outside of Pendleton as Evans gets to the inside of Kostek for the lead.
That's what we were looking for, and they're even side by side, they're pulling away. The fresh tires on the 66 just working gangbusters here as he pulls up to third now. He finally gets by Pendleton.
But you see, even on the old tires, that middle lane, it really chokes down the bottom groove down there. So you have to be able to roll the speed through the middle. I think the 4 tires can roll the speed. The 39 gets the run off of turn number 2. This is what Evans is looking for.
This is going to be his best shot to try and get this win away from that number 3. We're down to 11 laps to go now, and still he's been unable to do it as the yellow comes out. Who is ahead? Oh, they're going to spin.
Yeah, so this was a wreck after the yellow flag had come out. It'll be very, very interesting to see how iRacing handles all of this with the positions and whatnot, but the lead yellow, or the lead wreck, did not bring out the yellow flag.
It was Pendleton, interestingly. It was the 23, again, a shallow exit off of turn 4 that caused the yellow. You know, I almost wonder if maybe Evans got a little bit loose even before that yellow was given.
Oh, yes, 100%. Evans got into turn 1 too deep, was in the middle of a giant slide when the yellow flag came out. The yellow came out and then made impact with the number 3. So I believe how iRacing does it, as soon as the yellow flag flies, it should be about pretty much frozen right about here.
Well, they're not in that position right now. unless they're going to get them reordered here soon. This is wild. Yeah, a strange accident that has moved the number 3 down to 15th, and Evans is back in the lead. I'm not sure how that quite worked out. Maybe it's because the 3 gets completely turned around here.
You know, we got to talk. We need a virtual Barney assistant out here. You know, maybe a Barney chat that we can type in and ask Barney some questions, because I know that yeah, in real racing we'd be having these conversations and saying, hey, when did the yellow come out? Where's the field frozen? But it's all kind of up to Barney and the iRacing AI system and how they sort this one.
Barney GPT sounds like a bad idea, if you ask me. I don't think we should give him sentience, but we'll see. I guess if they were going to wave him around, they would have done it already. So they're going to allow it to stick, and the 3 is going to have to start back in the back. Just really awful timing. He was doing a beautiful job up there. I am gutted to see him have to restart this far down.
Absolutely. It's super tough, and I think the toughest part about it, Joe, look at how many laps we got left. We weren't even really noticing it. With the green flag, we have clicked them off. We're going to be coming to about 5 to go when we go back green.
Yeah, I was kind of keeping an eye on that, because once it got down to about 15 laps to go, I was like, wow, this thing just blasted past us. Despite all the yellows, this was a quick race. So we're going to restart with 6 to go. That said, we are likely to go green-white checkers if we get another yellow from here, unless it happens almost immediately. So let's give one last shout before we leave. Talk about Red Beard Design Company, because Red Beard Design Co. is a brand design and creative agency out of Greenfield, Indiana. They do brand identity, illustration, advertisements, apparel, packaging, and posters. All of GLR's logos since day one are the creation of Red Beard Design Company. So when you see GLR anywhere, you're seeing Red Beard Design. Big thank you to them for sponsoring this series. Now Brandon Evans will have control. Jamie Mullins, who has been up towards the front along with Jeremy Gardner, are going to be breathing down his neck. Can they beat him to the finish? Green flag is out, and we accelerate towards turn 1. And don't forget about Cofield back in that damaged car. He's in 4th.
The 39 did exactly what he needed to. He got clear by turn number 1, so it's all Gardner and Mullins now for second place, and the longer they battle side by side, the more Evans can run away, and the 53 with no nose sitting there in 4th.
Mullins coming close to that outside wall out of 4, but I think he managed to keep from spinning it. Looks like the 64 is going to spin it, though. That is Matt Knights. That will take us to our first green-white checkers.
Well, you know, I think it's only right to have a green-white checkered here, especially with how many yellows we've already seen today. So let's get a shot of this podium replay. Riding on board here, you see the 25 to the outside. So this is the 64. This is the car that is going to get turned around. And just loose, just drove it in too deep into 1, and around the truck went.
Yeah, that was, I mean, he got a little help to finish it, but it was already starting to spin. Ooh, who was that on the bottom side, though?
I saw that too. I wasn't sure.
That was Charles Feltz, Chuck Feltz, it looks like. He just spun getting down low, and I think he touched the grass, wound up going around. That's going to send him to the back of the lead lap, unfortunately. But we've had so many trucks go a lap down, he's actually still 16th.
Well, we've had so many yellows, Joe, that despite having all of these wrecked trucks, I still count 16 trucks still on the lead lap, and I believe there's even still some getting the lucky dog and their wave arounds too, to kind of go back. There's Doug Ellingson that's only 1 lap down. Trevor McManus is 2 laps down. So of the 25 cars, 24 cars that I think took the green flag, 22 of them are still running and a bunch on the lead lap.
Looks like Drabick has parked it. I think he knows he can't take any more positions from here, so he'll stay put. Pendleton is also in pit lane. Yeah, he's 11 laps down, so he can't catch anybody at this stage. This is going to be our first attempt at the green-white checkers. We'll get 2 tries at it. Now, for those that don't know, a green-white checkers is essentially overtime in oval racing, and the drivers will have to complete 2 laps to finish the race. Now, if they get a yellow before they get to the white flag, they'll reset and try it again, and that's the only other attempt that they'll get in this case. But once they get to the white flag under green flag conditions, that's it. Race is official. They'll race to the checkered flag no matter what wrecks happen on the last lap, and it is whoever gets to that finish line first. So we'll see if they can manage it. I mean, at the start, it looked like they wouldn't have been able to, but they've had some decent runs since then.
I think I've still got my eye on that number 66 of Jamie Mullins. Now, he hasn't found victory lane yet this year. Brandon Evans won last week. Jeremy Gardner, he's won already as well a little bit earlier in the season. The 53 of Cofield back there, he's found victory lane. Also have to remember the top 5 finishers here get that dash for cash. So this could be that opportunity for Jamie Mullins. It could be the opportunity for also the 25 of James Kaufman. Remember, he has been filled with incidents today. Or it could be Alan Marshall on that 82 getting that final dash for cash spot.
Yeah, it's that third row that has the first spot that does, with drivers that haven't seen a win here. So everybody else in front of them have already at least had one. It's going to get harder and harder as the season goes on to keep up this record. Green flag is out. Here we go. First of the green-white checkers, and Evans is away well. Jeremy Gardner could cut down, but no, he's going to try to go around the outside.
I like this move from the 42. The middle of the racetrack has been the fastest groove all day long, and he's got the freshest tires. He's going to box Brandon Evans down. I think Jeremy Gardner is going to fight for the win.
And we are going official. White flag is out. He's got a nose ahead, but he's going to need the run off the last corner. The 39 trying to push him as hard as he can. Will he lean on him through 3 and 4? He stays down to the bottom. Little too high for Gardner, and he gets loose. He can't hold on to it, and Evans will win here at North Wilkesboro.
Back-to-back wins for the number 39 as there is a pile-up at start-finish. I thought Jeremy Gardner was going to take this one away from Evans, but he finds victory lane for the 2nd week in a row.
And Mullins will take second because of Gardner spinning, and almost appropriately for Cofield, he wrecks across the line, takes 4th place in the process. So still quick, even as he's wrecking. Evans gonna celebrate here as he weaves his way across the track in happiness. Looks like he'll get a little bit of a congratulations from McManus, who gives him a hello down the back stretch. Looks like this is going to work out well for Alan Marshall, also, who finished in the top 5, last of those drivers who will make it into the dash for cash at Atlanta.
Let's listen as he burns this baby down.
Love it. Great stuff there from the 39 up, and he's going to smash the wall a little bit. He doesn't need this truck anymore. He's done with it.
That's the classic move to get through tech, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, boy. Well, that will wrap up tonight's race here at North Wilkesboro for the Goat Locker Racing League. And up at the top of it, Brandon Evans takes the victory over Jamie Mullins by about half a second, with Gardner finishing behind him in 3rd. And Cofield off the podium by nearly 1/10 of a second. Alan Marshall will finish in the top 5 and have a shot at the Dash for Cash next time out. He started from 19th, by the way. Stephen McDonald was 6th with George Jewell, who was quick in qualifying, couldn't quite wrap it up in the race. He was only 7th. Mike Browning was P8. And then Timothy Stubblefield, without a qualifying time, went from 23rd to 9th. Mark McCrary, he wound up 10th.
Jake Ellingson back here, I think that he was one of the faster trucks all night. The 11th place definitely does not represent how fast he was. Kyle Plumstead with the 12th place finish. Michael Kustak back here in 13th. And remember that number 3 kind of got the rough end of the stick late in the race as well. Chuck Phelps in 14th. Brandon Wallace back here in 15th. Then comes the cars 1 lap down. James Kaufman in that number 25, Matt Knights in the 64, Doug Ellingson finishing in 18th, Trevor McManus a couple laps down back here in 19th, James Goshen in 20th, and then a few more did take to the racetrack. Remember, Ryan Pendleton was doing so good the first half of this race and then fell back. Patrick Drabick kept the high spirits throughout after being involved early on, and then Regis Clark had some issues, and Tanner Bethea, unfortunately, did not even start today's race.
I couldn't get onto the grid, but a man that made it to the grid and then was first to the finish line was Brandon Evans. Brandon, back-to-back wins out here. After we had so many different winners, it must feel good to be able to pull that one off.
My goodness, yeah, this was not a good track for me last year, and that was a hell of a race. I know it was a caution fest, but I thought spun myself out, get some tires, and try to make my way back through the field and make something of it. It was really fun battling my teammates there at the end. Trying to put on a show. So we had a good time with it, and the set car felt great, and it was a lot of fun running at North Wilkesboro. So just happy to recover from, especially last year. I didn't run all that well last year, so it's nice to get it kind of figured out and get a win. So 2 in a row. So that's awesome.
It certainly is impressive. And also, what was impressive, you holding that bottom line. From what we could tell, it seemed like the middle line was often the place to be if you're trying to make a pass. Were you confident you could hold it out there on the low side?
Yeah, well, I mean, with the momentum that you could carry through the corner and the way the banking is at this track, like you can, Jeremy put it right on my door. I think he just got a little bit squirrely off of 2. If he would have been able to get a good straight exit, I mean, it would have been a door-to-door finish for sure. I did think that the low line was dominant, but I mean, you could really defend here in the top line, and I think that's why the racing at North Wilkesboro is so great.
Well, you were also, I mean, fittingly, our veteran spotlight today. Is this also a good tick of the box for the Army National Guard representing them today?
Oh yeah, it feels good. It's nice, being a part of Goat Locker and what it represents. It's an awesome experience to be able to race with like-minded individuals and veterans and first responders. So I appreciate them doing the spotlight. That's really nice and really cool of them. There's a lot of great guys here that have served their country and and some of them still serve. So happy to be a part of it. Happy to race with these guys and always have a good time. So. Again, just happy for Goat Locker, man. It's a really good league for sure, and we have a good time with it.
Well, thank you for your service and congratulations on an impressive win.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
That was Brandon Evans, your winner here today at North Wilkesboro. Looks like Joey has caught up with Jamie Mullins, though.
Well, one of the fastest drivers all night long finishes in second. It's over now. What did you think?
Oh, man, I will. First podium of the year. I want to throw that out there. So I really don't know what to do with my hands right now. But actually, it was kind of a weird race. It's not like Goat Locker to put on a show like we did. These are guys in here that are just really good at racing around one another. But I guess if you get the short tracks going, you got very different braking points. You got, people that roll the turns a little bit better. So I expected some cautions. I just didn't expect that many.
Well, I have to ask you because I pointed it out earlier on how you were really taking the top lane in 1 and 2, especially on these restarts, to leave room for everybody else. Now, do you have a lot of short track experience or North Wilkesboro experience, or were you just trying to make room for everybody on the playground?
I'm just not used to running up front like that, so I was given a lot of leeway there. I don't want to get wrecked. I mean, with 0 fast repairs. Plus, funny story. I think the first Goat Locker race I ever ran was the Goat Locker race for the hat here at North Wilkesboro that was lucky enough to win. So I really love this track, believe it or not. And it's a fun track. It's you have to hit your marks, and again, I was just leaving a lot of room. These guys here I know are fast, and I just felt privileged to be up front running with them all night.
Let's keep building you up here, man, because this is your first podium. It also qualifies you for Dash for Cash for next week. So going into Atlanta, you got to be able to build on this. And what's your confidence going into a racetrack that is totally different than what we had tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the super speedway style racing. I seem to excel at that. Hopefully I can just keep it clean and, let the race come to me and just try to keep myself in the best position to where I can pull out a win. Don't get me wrong, I was trying to go for the win. That would have been my first GLR official league win, so I was giving it all I got. I mean, I'm sweaty, my hands are all clammy, and racing up here and up front with these fast guys here at North Wilkesboro gave me really a lot of confidence that I can run with these guys.
Well, I think that you are one of the cleanest drivers, probably the most consistent driver in terms of the front of the field all night. The 66 was up there, a huge points haul here going into the end of the season. You got to have some people to thank.
Yeah, I sure do. Right. First off, I want to thank y'all for what y'all do. I can't wait to go back and watch the broadcast. I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and I know it was a longer one for y'all with all the talking. So really curious to see what y'all say. But my main sponsor right now on my truck is Right Now Roofing. Really want to thank them. And then my team, Veterans for Life Foundation, and Jam Printing and Promotions, Premier Racing Setups for the awesome setup they actually gave. It was really fun to drive. Cruising Classics, and then Red Beer Design. And then also want to give a shout out to my teammates. We were up there up front all night. Jeremy, I know we raced hard together. Door banged a little bit. My other teammate Brandon for bringing home the win. Jake also. He's a Veterans for Life Foundation. And then Jamie for bringing me in to be a part of the Veterans for Life Foundation. That's really awesome.
That was the driver of the 66, Jamie Mullins, with a fantastic points day today. The first podium for that driver. Just an all around
Interview.
great
Hey.
day out here, Joe.
Yep. And real quick, we wanted to bring Brandon Evans back with a quick question. Brandon, is there anybody you want to thank for today's victory?
Oh yeah, absolutely. First, I want to thank Goat Locker Racing. I want to thank you guys at Podium. I want to thank Premier Racing Setups, Jam Printing and Promotions, awesome organization, Veterans for Life Foundation, and my awesome teammates, Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, and Red Beard Design Company. Appreciate all those sponsors and partners. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Brandon Evans, once again, our winner here today. But third place was Jeremy Gardner, who actually came across the line backwards. Jeremy, you led most of the race, and then suddenly you made the call around, I think it was lap 87 or 88, to come in for tires. Was there a point where you thought maybe this wasn't the right call for the track position, or did you feel always that you made the right call to come in when you did?
I feel like I made the right call. I mean, we had a green flag run for about 20, 30 laps. So I kind of figured everybody would pit after that, considering they started to actually wear the tires instead of riding under caution like we did most of the race. But no, I definitely felt like that was the right call. I know Brandon took tires, so I was just like, well, I guess we're going to fall on the line. I hope to God this works out.
So talk about that last little finish there too. You're on the outside. We mentioned to Brandon that we felt the middle lane seemed to be the quickest way around. So we thought you were in the better position, but you wound up spinning off the final corner. What happened in that situation?
Last lap adrenaline, really. I'm still smacking myself for it because I figured after that run I had off too, I thought I had it in the bag. I think I just got up a little high in the groove, 3 and 4, just pedaled up way too quick and just got it super loose. But glad I finished where I did and didn't fall back. I'm just glad it happened where it happened instead of happening like 1 and 2. But still thankful for it for sure.
Yeah, at least you're able to fight all the way to the finish, and especially because that means too that you are in the top 5. You're in the dash for cash. What are your chances of getting those $60?
Where are we at next week? Atlanta. Oof, that's a that's a hard one right there. I don't know. I think my chance is pretty high. I'm pretty good at draft tracks and stuff like that, but we'll see how it works out for sure.
Well, best of luck. Before you go, who do you want to thank for today's podium?
Definitely the guys over at GLR for putting on a great league every single week. I know tonight was a little off, but I know this team's capable of a lot more than tonight, so we'll definitely look past this. Jam Printing and Promotions, Premier Racing Setup was on point tonight. One of my sponsors, Veterans for Life Foundation. Thank you for all they do. Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, and Red Beard Design Company, and of course you guys for putting on the broadcast every week.
Well, thank you. That was Jeremy Gardner, who finished third here today. Still one of the drivers in a very good position in terms of the championship because he's locked in for the postseason. And I believe that is going to wrap us up for this one. Definitely been a fun one. Yes, we had quite a few cautions out there, but I have to say, Joey, I genuinely was surprised how fast this went.
It happens when we get the green flag runs. It just clicks off laps, under 20 seconds. And yeah, it was a typical North Wilkesboro race. There was a lot of overdriving, a lot of loose moments, but hey, that's North Wilkesboro, and that is short track racing.
You have to take those sometimes, but we'll be back for Atlanta. That'll be Friday, March 22nd at 8:20 p.m. Eastern here on Podium Esports. So make sure and tune in for that one. As we've seen, this place can put on a hell of a show. Also, a huge thanks to those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan and Rachel Bauer, and thanks to the team today, Eddie, Joey, and Dougie. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.